Hello, everyone, and welcome to BVM Sports Chalk Talk. We are here for episode number 13. I'm Lucas Semb alongside Scott Procter and Matt Morris. We've got plenty to talk about today. With the AFC and NFC title games quickly approaching, we'll all make our call on who's heading to the Super Bowl and which QB has the most to gain. And we'll talk about Deshaun Watson's offseason saga. And the NBA will give our takes on Brooklyn's new big three. But to kick things off, let's start right here in Wisconsin, where the Packers will play host to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers, a matchup everyone is looking forward to. Scott, who do you think will be making their way to Tampa for Super Bowl weekend?
Yeah, man. I think I've said it enough to where everyone knows by now that, I picked Green Bay to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl preseason. And now all they have to do is beat the most accomplished quarterback in NFL history. I could talk about Rodgers somehow having his best season as a pro at 38 years old, or Devontae Adams getting the best of the league's best corner last weekend. Or even that defense has given up just 16 points per game over its last 4 games. But the storyline that's flown under the radar to me with this team is a job Matt LaFleur has done since taking over as head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Not only does LaFleur have a sparkling 26-6 regular season record through 2 seasons, which is second only to Kansas City over that span, but he's led Green Bay to the NFC title game in each of his first 2 seasons at the helm. Only 2 other coaches in NFL history have done that. Sure, a lot of that has to do with Aaron Rodgers and the player that he is, but sometimes inheriting such an all-time talent, such as him, can be even more difficult, to handle navigating personalities and egos. Just look at the NBA right now with Steven Silas and Houston Rockets, and James Harden situation, and even in the NFL, whoever ends up taking the Houston job is going to be in a world of hurt knowing that Deshaun Watson wants out of town. Back to the Packers, you watch Green Bay, and a legitimate argument can be made that they're the most balanced team still remaining in the playoffs. Matt alluded to it last week, how Aaron Rodgers is the best play-action quarterback this season because there is a real threat of getting gashed in the run game by one of the most underrated backs in the league, and Aaron Jones. And underrated is the theme for this Packers offense because guys like Robert Tonyan, Alan Lazard, Jamal Williams, even A.J. Dillon and MVS to a certain extent, these guys aren't high-end talent necessarily, but their abilities are being maximized. And, to me, that's coaching. Back to a point I made earlier, how does arguably the most talented quarterback of all time have his best season as a pro at 38 years old? That goes back to coaching, and Matt LaFleur deserves a lot of credit for that. Bucs head coach Bruce Arians, he's had a ton of success in the NFL at various spots. He helped the Steelers win the Super Bowl as their quarterback's coach, and offensive coordinator over a decade ago. But LaFleur strikes me as a coach who will be in the mainstay in the NFC playoff picture for years to come. This will be an all-time duel here this weekend in a game that we'll remember for a long time. But I like the more balanced team and the team that's playing at home. I like Green Bay to prevail 27-23 in a great game. What do you think about all that, Matt?
I agree, Scott. I honestly do. And not just the home game, but with fans there, it's exciting. It felt electric. Even though it was only 9,000, I believe, fans.
Lambeau was rocking last week.
They were playing like they had energy, and the Packers loved it. They fed off that fan experience. And just to go off of what you said with LaFleur, him and Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers too, because that was the big difference this season compared to last season, is they molded everything together to make their own kind of offense. I mean, the play that strikes my mind and is an example of why, like you said, LaFleur has every, bit of credit given to him is when they were down in the red zone and you motion Devontae Adams and just make Jalen Ramsey have to go through his entire defense.
They schemed up a touchdown. They schemed up an open touchdown.
It was perfect. It was the perfect play. And that was an example. And the one part of the offense you didn't talk about, I'm going to add to your whole argument. The offensive line is underrated. You lose the best left tackle in the league, and you then shut down Aaron Donald. Like, that was terrifying. Elton Jenkins is a name everyone needs to remember.
Facts.
He's going to go down as one of the best, I think, offensive linemen in the history of the NFL. He's been that impressive in just his 2 years of playing, and I'm excited about it. I'm buying into that hype. As far as Tampa Bay goes, obviously they're coming in, the underdogs, and I think deservedly so. And the other thing that interests me is when you watch that game against New Orleans, the only time Drew Brees and that offense tried to throw for over 40 yards or 30 yards is a trick play that Jameis Winston threw. That Tampa Bay defense looked really good. They got turnovers, give them credit for that, but they weren't really challenged on the deep ball. And I don't think that New Orleans really came in with a game plan that made, Tampa Bay have to really worry about anything that was within 20 yards, and they held them to that. And then they won the turnover battle. So I'm not worried about Tampa Bay's defense. I don't think that they have what it takes to go up against this offensive line. And I don't think after you beat the Rams, anybody should be worried about Tampa Bay because you already beat the best. And as far as the offense goes, the defense is playing great. Like you said, Scott, they're getting pressure on the quarterback now. They have a great secondary with Jair Alexander, Darnell Savage, Adrian Amos.
Jair Alexander. That if there's a next Jalen Ramsey, it's that guy right there.
Absolutely. It's exciting, and it's going to be tough for Tom Brady to do anything. So I definitely have the Packers as well. Luke, what are your final thoughts on the NFC matchup?
Yeah, definitely. It pains me to do this because, I'm not a huge Packer fan, but they've earned my respect this season. This season, their offense has been unstoppable. And I talked about it last week being the highest scoring offense and how they'd be tested against this Rams defense. And they still hung 32 points on them. Now, the Buccaneers are no pushover defensively either. And the Packers learned this the hard way during the regular season in a 38-10 loss. It's going to be hard for Tampa to make this a repeat performance. I mean, they held Aaron Jones to 15 yards on 10 carries and forced Aaron Rodgers into 2 interceptions. And then after the game, Devin White, he comes on saying they didn't belong on the field with him. I mean, come on. You think the Packers don't know about this? You think sly Aaron Rodgers is going to just lay down? Rodgers is going to come out here. He's going to lay a whooping on them, and then he's going to give them that game over smirk that he's been giving every other team. I know I haven't said much about the Buccaneers, but that's because I think this game lies solely in the hands of the Packers. What they want of it will come of it, and I think it'll be a 31-17 win for the Packers. And there's really not much to debate here. We all agree. So let's transition right away to the AFC, where the Chiefs will be hosting the Bills in a game where the availability of Patrick Mahomes is up in the air. Matt, you start us off there. Will the Chiefs be returning to the Super Bowl this year? I also want to say congrats on getting your Bills pick right. It's about time you hit on something on this show.
Agreed.
All right. Well, I got my table right here. It's ready. It's going to be waiting for another Bills win. But unfortunately, the biggest, as much as I want the Bills to win, as excited as I am about this organization and about Josh Allen and the steps that they made this year to become a legit contender, if Pat Mahomes is playing, you got to go with the Chiefs. They are still the better team. Those offensive weapons last week were just terrifying. I mean, Cleveland, I think, played scared on defense and didn't really try and go after Mahomes. So that could be something interesting if the Bills decide to do that. But overall, I still think that if Pat Mahomes plays, Kansas City wins at home. Andy Reid, all those guys, they're great. But I'm excited, and I think this game will be closer than people are probably thinking. And I want to see what the Bills do, because I think that's going to set them up for the future and what goes on in these next few seasons. And if they can challenge, the Chiefs every year for the AFC title.
I have to ask the question, if Chad Henne gets the start, does that change your opinion in the outcome of this game?
I think it does a little bit, because it's just Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes. I think that as much as Chad Henne did an amazing job, and honestly, that 20-yard run probably saved Kansas City's, season, and I give a lot of credit, but you give the Bills a week to scheme and get after Henne. Chad Henne is not Pat Mahomes, and it's a difference. And I think that doesn't give the Bills they're clear favorites, but it becomes more of a 50-50, where if you have Mahomes, it's clearly the Chiefs should be favored.
Definitely. I'll hop in here, and then Scott, I'll toss it to you. But I want to talk because obviously I think the majority of this game, people think it rests on who the Chiefs starting quarterback is going to be. But hear me out. I don't think it matters. I got the Chiefs taking this one, whether it be Mahomes or Henne. If Mahomes starts, it'll be a typical slaughter fest. If Henne starts, their offense won't be as eruptive, but they'll get the job done. Henne, got put into the game versus the Browns this past weekend. Late game situation. He did throw an interception, and, he got thrown into the fire. That's what happens. You make mistakes. But when it counted, he rushed for a near first down on a 3rd and long. He had that 20-yard run. He threw a first down pass to Tyreek Hill, kind of to seal the deal. He managed the game when it mattered. He managed the clock, and with the lead that they had, that's all he had to do. Now, he'll be preparing as a starter this week. He'll get more real game reps. He'll be prepared. And I think all he needs to do is be a game manager. He isn't Mahomes, and he doesn't need to be. Insert Clyde Edwards-Helaire into the lineup, who missed last week, and all of their weapons will be enough for them to make plays for Henne and allow him to be a game manager. And the Bills, they've been less than impressive this postseason. With wins are wins, but eventually when you play a team as good as the Chiefs, the Bills need to play better than they have this postseason. So I just don't think they're good enough to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth too much to discuss the Chiefs' chances with Chad Henne at quarterback, because I think it's almost an absolute certainty that Patrick Mahomes suits up this weekend. Andy Reid said, I think just yesterday, that before the concussion protocol era, Patrick Mahomes might have re-entered the game there on Sunday. But, man, I'm not letting your Bills off that easy, man. The Bills have the same chance the Browns did last week in this sense. If Mahomes can't finish the game for some reason, Buffalo is in great shape. Otherwise, it was a great season for Bills Mafia, one that I honestly didn't envision lasting this long. But in all seriousness, I wouldn't feel great about my prospects this weekend as a Bills fan after the last 2 weeks, and Luke just alluded to it. Indianapolis outgames you in what was Phillip Rivers' probably his last game ever 2 weeks ago. And this past weekend, the Bills ran the ball just 3 times in the first half. Buffalo placed the game squarely on Josh Allen's shoulders on Saturday, and he handed Bills Mafia 10 points of offense in return. Lamar Jackson's pick six in the third quarter ended the game. The game was over at that point, and despite that and how we all know Lamar Jackson looked on Saturday, Lamar Jackson had a better quarterback rating in that game, 56-51, while being a run-first quarterback. Make it make sense. Somebody make it make sense to me. That's 2 weeks in a row now that I've walked away unimpressed with Josh Allen in the Bills offense, which all of you are telling me is the strength of this team. I think
you're not going to give credit to the defenses they faced?
To the
Baltimore and Indianapolis?
Those are great defenses. I'm expecting Josh Allen, the way I'm hearing other people talking, I'm expecting him to elevate his game and elevate his offense to score more than 10 points on a home divisional playoff game.
Exactly.
Is that too much to ask? I don't know.
Right. I had people telling me that, if Josh Allen wins the Super Bowl, this year, he's going to be the best quarterback in the league.
Ridiculous.
I mean, come on. We're talking about Mahomes and Rodgers. The answer is very simple.
We'll talk a little bit about that more later, but I'm not even done with Matt, because Matt, a couple weeks ago, you told me that the Steelers were no threat to the Chiefs because not only can they not run the ball, but they don't even try. Who does that sound like now? Bills running backs combined for 9 carries on Saturday. They didn't even call their first run play until 3 minutes before halftime. Please, knock it off. The Bills were never really true threats to the Chiefs' throne, and we'll see proof of that here this weekend.
What's crazy about that is that Matt last week just talked about Zach Moss and Devin Singletary and how they were great.
I'm in that offensive room. I'm not Brian Dable. I can't call the runs. I thought they were going to run the ball. I don't know what that game plan was. I can only see what I see. And I thought they were going to run the ball. And they'd actually have it spread out an even offensive game plan. They wanted to just throw it. That's not like –
The biggest thing I took out of that game on Saturday was, again, like I mentioned, the Bills' offense, Brian Daboll, that offensive staff, they went into the week with a clear game plan that we're going to place this game on Josh Allen. We're going to have him drop back 95% of the time. And if it wasn't for a Teron Johnson 101-yard pick six, we'd be talking about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills a lot differently today. But they won. They deserve credit for that. They're in the AFC Championship. And it was a great season for them. That is going to be over here in a few days. But.
And while we're talking quarterbacks, let's take into account all the starting quarterbacks left. We got Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Which QB out of this grouping here has the most to gain with the Super Bowl win? All of them have or are building an impressive resume, but who will benefit the most from finishing the job this season? Scott, start it off.
Sure, yeah. I mean, just going through the options, Josh Allen could win a Super Bowl this year, and he still won't even be a top 2 quarterback in the AFC. He'd still be behind Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. Aaron Rodgers could win the Super Bowl this season, and the majority of people, and rightfully so, will still say that Tom Brady is the GOAT. But Tom Brady could dead all debate with his 7th Super Bowl title and first one without Bill Belichick here this year. If Tom Brady is able to beat Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes en route to number 7 in his first year with a new team, He'll enter the conversation as the greatest team sport athlete of all time. Not to mention that this man is 43 years old, and his former team couldn't even win 8 games without him this season. The only legitimate cloud over Tom Brady's career after 6 rings and just about every playoff passing record was the presence of Bill Belichick and the Patriot way. New England already proved this season that they needed Brady for their success, but if Tom proves to everyone that he never really needed the greatest football coach of all time to win it all GOAT debates cease. Tom Brady has the most to gain from a Super Bowl win.
Here's my thing about that. Brady has 6 Super Bowls already, and he's been to more. He's been in 14 conference championships. How much more does he really have to prove? I think he's already considered one of the best all-time team sport athletes. So I don't know, if he doesn't end up winning the Super Bowl, oh well. He's, like you said this week, he's playing with house money.
Yeah.
But Matt, go ahead. Who do you got in this team?
Well, I mean, not only that, but I think Belichick also proved this year. I don't know if that Patriot team was even as good as that their record showed. I think Belichick also coached them up quite a bit. So anybody who brings up that point of, what is Brady without Belichick and what is Belichick without Brady, I don't think that's a fair argument. But going back to my quarterback, I think Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen has a lot to gain from this Super Bowl. He's in his 3rd season in the NFL. He's finally had and in that season, he is an MVP candidate. Obviously, he's behind Mahomes and Rodgers, who are the clear favorites, but he still had a great season. Over 4,500 passing yards, 37 TDs, only 10 interceptions, and he had over 107 passer rating. He is playing great. He's brought Bills Mafia back, and they have hope in actually being contenders. And if he were to go in to Arrowhead, beat the Chiefs, who are clearly the new favorites year in and year out for the AFC title, and have taken over the role of the Patriots, and because Tom Brady left, I think that this is huge for them, and it sets them up to continue to improve, because I don't think Josh Allen is done yet. If you're basing it off of the last 3 years, he's been improving each season. To get a Super Bowl in his 3rd, and then still have room to grow and still have room to improve that relationship with Stephon Diggs and that offense that has been on fire this season, I think that they have the most to gain. They're going to erect a statue of Josh Allen outside of that Bills Stadium if he brings them a Super Bowl.
How will you
that even Jim Kelly couldn't do?
Man, how will you view Josh Allen exactly in the league landscape of quarterbacks? How would you view Josh Allen after Super Bowl win this season?
And an additional question, what exactly is he benefiting besides winning the Super Bowl? How is he individually benefiting? I don't know really that
I think he's answering the questions that were there this entire playoffs is, can Josh Allen win playoff games? He's already won 2 playoff games, but people are still questioning it. I mean, this show has shown that. I mean, literally today. If he wins the Super Bowl, what are you going to question at that point? What more does he have to prove to you? There's not another postseason game he can win. So I think that's the argument. I mean, Lamar Jackson won a playoff game, but until he gets to that final game, I think people are still going to pull up, well, he only won 1. He didn't even get to the AFC title game. I don't think it's not making him, Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes, to your point, Scott, I think are better quarterbacks as of right now, but I don't think Josh Allen couldn't improve to that level. And if he's on a title contending team and a team overall that, is going to lead you to the AFC championship game, he's the difference maker in that sense, because it's all on him at that point. We talked about, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, and I'm not comparing the two. I am not comparing the two, but we just said the Packers team is more evenly skilled than Tom Brady's, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that means something. But that's not knocking Rodgers and his greatness. So if they win and Josh Allen is a part of a Bills Super Bowl team, that's not – I think that adds. It does not take away for sure. So it can only add to what we think of Josh Allen moving forward.
I got you.
No, absolutely. I see your points. And, what I think, though, I think for me it has to be Aaron Rodgers. I want to start by explaining why it's more important for him than any other QB. These young guys, Mahomes and Allen, obviously a Super Bowl would be huge for them. Both guys are rising stars and becoming faces of the league. But ideally, they've still got a long way to go in their careers. So this will not make or break their legacy. For Tom Brady, he's got 6 Super Bowl rings, and this will be his 14th conference championship. he has more playoff wins, 32, than the next closest guy, who is Joe Montana with 16. This guy has 2 full seasons of playoff wins. This for him could, it could put the nail in the coffin, like you said, Scott, that, he's the best ever. But he will already forever be remembered as one of the greats, if not the greatest ever. So now we're back here at Aaron Rodgers, the man who Tom Brady has admitted is more skilled than he ever was and will be. His only knock is a lack of rings. So it's simple. Lots of QBs have rings. Flacco has one. Nick Foles has one. Brad Johnson got himself a ring. So to be considered a great, you need to have multiple. Nobody is denying Rodgers as one of the best talents ever. But to be considered one of the truly greats, he needs a second ring. I think this should mean more to him than anyone at any position on any team. He has the chance to cement himself somewhere alongside Brady as an all-timer.
So, Luke, off of that, though, do you think that this is one of the last chances Rodgers is going to get, or do you think this Packers team is still going to be, an NFC title contender, for the next few years? Like, is it important because this is his last chance, or is it important because this is a great opportunity right now to do it?
It's a great question.
Right. It's a great opportunity as an awesome team. And, I have to make another NBA analogy. It's like when the Raptors won their NBA championship. Everything was just clicking. And that's how I feel about this Packers team. So when that opportunity is there, you just got to make the most of it. I think they'll be around. They're going to be around the NFC North for a while, obviously making noise. But when you're talking about your quarterback being 38, and I know he's probably going to win the MVP this year, you just never know when that magic is going to die out and when he's going to start to digress. So while you have that opportunity and you're playing as good as you are, you just got to win it all. But here, I want to talk about another quarterback with all the talent in the world, but finding himself in a bad situation, Deshaun Watson. So far this offseason, we've seen his relationship with the Texans grow to the point where he isn't answering phone calls from team personnel. So do you guys think Watson should want out of Houston? And if he does, what do you think is an ideal landing spot for him? Matt, you can take it away.
Well, that was actually one of the reasons I asked you, Luke, if this feels like it's the best opportunity for Rodgers, because there's a chance Deshaun Watson heads over to the NFC and is giving Rodgers and those Packers issues for the foreseeable future, and especially because of the team that I think he should be traded to. I think Deshaun Watson should definitely leave the Texans. Because of Bill O'Brien, prior to being fired, it destroyed their future. They don't have picks to build around Watson. They've made it clear that they don't really want to talk to him and get his input in big moves that the organization does, which is what every smart organization needs to do with their franchise player. You have to have him in the conversation. So I think he should be traded, and the team that I think he should be traded to is the San Francisco 49ers. I think that makes the most sense out of any one of these teams. This year was an off year for them, so they have a higher draft pick than they normally would. They'll probably get the 12th, which is still good enough for Texans to get a guy that they need. There's most likely going to be a good quarterback there at that point. And then they also have plenty of first and second round picks the next few years that you could add into that package. Not to mention, you could possibly swap Jimmy G, because obviously the Texans just hired a Patriots guy who was involved in the Jimmy G draft pick and believes in him. So I think you give them that quarterback that at least helps stabilize what is most likely going to be a huge rebuild for the Texans. And then as far as what Deshaun Watson wants out of an organization, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are the best in the business right now, if not one of the best, if not the best. Shanahan is clearly one of the greatest offensive minds in the league. He is a great overall coach, which was shown this year with everything they had to deal with. And John Lynch works well with that organization. They all communicate well. They're on the same page. They know what they want to do. They were just in a Super Bowl last year. And honestly, they lost because one team had Pat Mahomes at quarterback. The other had Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. That is why they lost. You add Deshaun Watson to that team. They stay healthy. You have him thrown to Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. This is a match made in heaven, and I think the 49ers should be able to make it happen. And Deshaun Watson, I think, would love being in San Francisco and being the next great 49ers quarterback.
Yeah, 49ers is a great pick. Only caveat I have to that is I'm not sure that organization is ready to give up on Jimmy Garoppolo just yet. Obviously, he isn't, a top 5 quarterback by any means, but, it's hard to ignore that the 49ers are just in the Super Bowl with him leading the way, just 2 seasons ago. But, back to Deshaun, he should absolutely want out. of Houston. Let's recap a few things. Bill O'Brien trades away DeAndre Hopkins, who is not only a college teammate at Clemson and best friend of Deshaun, but one of the best wide receivers in NFL history for peanuts. He traded the man for peanuts. Then O'Brien gets himself fired, and the Texans decide to hire a new GM without even consulting their best and highest paid player. Not only that, but they ignored the suggested head coaching finalist of a search firm that the franchise paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to, and didn't even interview Watson's top choice of Eric Bieniemy until recently when they found out he was mad about it. On top of all that, Houston was just awful this season, despite Deshaun being the third highest graded quarterback behind Aaron Rodgers and Brady, who we'll see play this weekend. The man Watson was the highest graded quarterback versus playoff teams this season, with Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks as his top two guys. Let's let that sink in. The cherry on top is that the Texans don't even have a first-round pick or much draft capital because Bill O'Brien left the cupboard bare after multiple head-scratching trades, headlined by the Laramie Tunsil trade that has allowed Miami Dolphins to have 2 first-round picks this year. So Houston's first pick in the draft this year is number 67 overall in round 3, and they're projected to have the fewest cap space in 2022 at $43 million. Just for context, the AFC South Division rival, the Colts, they have $155 projected million in cap for 2022. This team can't get any better through the draft or free agency, and Deshaun Watson's stock is higher than ever. So back to him. I agree with you, Matt. I believe the Texans will work hard to trade Deshaun to the NFC. So the Carolina Panthers is the team that I'm looking at here. They can trade the number 8 overall pick, another first rounder down the line, and Teddy Bridgewater as a stopgap measure to Houston, who could still draft a quarterback with that number 8 pick. The Panthers have a relatively young nucleus of coaches and players. Head coach Matt Rule, who we talked about on the show previously, just wrapped up his first season up in the pros after a successful stint at Baylor, while offensive coordinator Joe Brady came to Carolina fresh off a national championship with Joe Burrow and LSU. Matt Rule and Brady are both offensive-minded, forward-thinking guys, which should entice Deshaun Watson to town. An offense that features McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Robbie Anderson, with Deshaun Watson calling the shots, should be enough for that bad man in Houston to waive his no-trade clause. I'm really liking Deshaun to Carolina here.
Absolutely, and I'm going to sound like an echo of Scott here. Deshaun should absolutely want out. It started when Bill O'Brien traded away Hopkins, like you said. That was the number one problem.
Ridiculous.
His weapons were decimated, and they got a minimal return, like you also alluded to. He still goes on and leads the league in passing yards this year. But they missed the playoffs. So he asked for Bieniemy, to get an interview. They won't do it. But now that he wants out, now they're going to do it. That's just a slap in the face. You are the face of a franchise, and you can't get your opinion heard. It's time to go. You can be the face of a franchise somewhere else with that talent. Mm-hmm. So how about in Chicago? Between Trubisky and Foles, that team didn't know what to do this year, and both looked subpar when they played. Now defensive coordinator Chuck Pagano is gone. This team needs a new identity, and they need it badly, and they need it fast. A team that's been all defense in recent years has a chance to go all in on Watson and turn themselves into an offensive juggernaut. I think that landing Watson might be enough to get Allen Robinson to re-sign. David Montgomery is starting to show who he truly is, and Darnell Mooney is looking like the real deal when he's out there. And Watson could enter into Chicago and become the man immediately and give them a chance to do something in the NFC North. But we've got to keep it moving. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking NBA basketball and more specifically the Brooklyn Nets, US Big Three. Stay with us. Welcome back to Chalk Talk, where we are about to discuss James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving all together on the same team. That is quite the trio of names, but all time, where do we think they stack up against other NBA Big Threes? And I'm going to go first on this one. This Brooklyn Nets team is the most talented Big Three of all time. And honestly, I don't even think it's necessarily that close. James Harden has been a top 3 MVP candidate for 5 seasons running now and in the middle of his prime. Kevin Durant is the best scorer of all time, and we are seeing him have the best season of his career post-Achilles tear. And Kyrie Irving, probably the most skilled point guard of all time when it comes to ball handling, breaking a man down, creating a play. He does things that look fake with the basketball. In terms of talent, this is by far the best Big Three the NBA has ever seen. All of them can create their own shot, dribble the basketball, make an outlet pass. Anyone who's holding the ball can run the offense fluidly. And that's something that, Steph, KD, and Clay, they all knew their roles, but talent-wise, just not the same. Thompson isn't breaking you down one-on-one. He isn't creating his own shot. He's the king of getting set up, and that's why they aren't number one. Bosh, James, and Wade. Wade isn't shooting the long ball. Bosh isn't taking you one-on-one from the perimeter. Not everyone has the talent that this team has because they can all run the offense. And Jay Williams, former Tar Heel, ESPN guy, he agrees. So now the most successful, that's a different story. You know, they all have egos, so getting these to mesh is going to be tough. Harden and KD have looked fine, but throw Kyrie into the mix, who is notorious for letting his ego get the best of him, that'll be a different aspect. So if they can keep themselves in check, they will be successful. But talent-wise, they are number one without a doubt. We've never seen anything like it before.
Look at my face. That's the look I'm giving you. I don't know what's more blasphemous, you saying what you just said, or the fact that you said it's not even close in terms of big time or big three all time. You mentioned the best big three of all time. We saw it already in Golden State with Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson. That is the best big three of all time. You already highlighted the greatness of Kevin Durant pre-injury, but now you combined him with the greatest shooting backcourt of all time. That is entirely too much. I love James Harden. I love Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving has a championship mentality that he got in Cleveland with LeBron James. But the Warriors' big three is too much. And this is how I know you don't even believe the take that you just made, because you don't even have Brooklyn winning the East. How does the most talented big three of all time not win the Eastern Conference? That's how I know.
This year I don't have them winning it, because that's going to go to the Bucks. It takes time for these talents to come together. But here's my other thing. You talk about pre-injury Kevin Durant with Steph and Klay. We are seeing the best Kevin Durant we've ever seen right now. We are seeing a better version of Kevin Durant than we saw on that Golden State team.
He's looked great right now. There's no debating that, but it's been about 13 games. We'll see.
So now how about this? Now say all these names together. Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Who doesn't belong? One of those names doesn't belong. One of the names not like the others.
Yeah, I would probably argue Kyrie Irving.
Nope, and it's Klay Thompson. Thompson has an amazing skill set. He's a
Klay Thompson is the best defender of the group if it's not named Kevin Durant. You can't take that out of the game. You can't take that away from the game.
He's one of the best pure shooters we've ever seen, and he is a great defender, like you said. But is he that much significantly better than the rest? No, he's not running an offense. He's not creating his own shot. If he were the man by himself.
When you're a part of a big three, you don't have to do those other things.
But that's the thing. That's why this is the best big three we've ever seen, because they all can and they all will when it's their time to do that
on
it.
One possession. They all can't handle the ball and do those things on the same possession. If you have you have the best scorer of all time in Kevin Durant, the best pair for that is to have two of the best shooters around him whose guys can't leave them. Who you can't double Kevin Durant with. Obviously, you're not going to be.
Are you going to leave? Are you leaving James Harden? Are you leaving Kyrie Irving?
But they're not the shooters that the best shooting backcourt of all time is. That's the best pair for the type of sniper and lethal perimeter player that Kevin Durant is. Other snipers from the perimeter. Just because Kyrie and James Harden can get their own shot and can dribble with the best of them, that isn't the best pair for KD. We saw the best pair with KD that made up the best big three of all time. And again, back to my point, the fact that you don't even believe that this team, as currently constructed, can win the Eastern Conference, a conference that doesn't involve LeBron James, tells me that you don't even believe this take for real.
Sure. Well, let's get to that. With all this being said, are the Nets your favorite to win the Eastern Conference Finals now? There's still some tough teams to go through in the East. Matt, what do you think?
I mean, I think that they're right neck and neck with the Bucks right now. I want to see them continue to play, and I want to see what Kyrie Irving addition does to that team. But as of right now, they are neck and neck, and I think you can make an argument for both sides. And enough with the Klay Thompson disrespect, honestly. Klay Thompson does what he's asked to do. It doesn't mean that Klay Thompson can't do it. It's that Klay Thompson is set up. He knows what he has to do. He literally is like, all I have to do is take maybe a dribble and then shoot, and I'm going to score. And
imagine somebody scoring 37 points. Imagine somebody scoring 37 points in one quarter.
He had like one dribble.
Bro, like, come on. Like, are you serious? The fact that you want to use that analogy of what doesn't belong.
A guy dribbling around is just a guy dribbling around. Klay Thompson cuts out the middleman and just scores. Like Kyrie's awesome. He does magical stuff with his hands in that basketball, and it's unbelievable. But 24 seconds of dribbling followed by a shot is the same as one dribble and a drilled three. Like I'm not gonna knock a guy because he does it quicker than another. Like, come on.
Klay Thompson has won more than one title as the second best player on the championship team.
Scott,
Has James Harden or Kyrie Irving ever done
I want
that?
your take on the Eastern Conference Finals. Are the Nets doing it?
The Nets have a great chance. It remains to be seen when Kyrie Irving gets back, how that chemistry all gels together. But as of right now, at this moment, I haven't seen anything that's gotten me off the Philadelphia 76ers train. They're still my pick to represent the Eastern Conference.
All right, that's a conversation for another day. I'm gonna say no too. I got the Bucks. I have to continue to ride the Bucks here. Giannis still the two-time MVP, and you saw what he did against them last night, 34, 12, and 7. And Chris Middleton has taken another step this year at 22, 6, and 6 a night. And add Drew Holiday, add Bobby Portis for 10 and 10 a night, add Bryn Forbes off the bench to be your sniper, and one of the NBA's best defensive bigs, and Brook Lopez. They have all the tools to do what it takes. And in a 7-game series, I got the Bucks. But
well, that's cute. But one last thing, I know for a fact the Nets aren't better than the Bucks based on what we just seen on Monday night. The Nets were able to beat a fully loaded Bucks team without a big three member who, again, according to Lucas Semb, is the most talented big three of all time. They did it without one of their best players, beat this fully loaded Bucks team. But I digress.
All right. Well, it'll certainly be something to monitor as the season rolls along, but that's going to be it from us here today on Chalk Talk. We will be back next week for all your sports entertainment needs. So for myself, Scott Procter, and Matt Morris, thanks for watching, and have a good week.